Brent Venables. I understand that Brent Venables got an extension 2 years ago, but Joe, he's 0-3 in bowl games. He's 22-17 at Oklahoma. He's had 2 losing seasons in 3 years at Oklahoma, where he's been 6-7 in year 1. It was 6-7 in year 2 and year 3. I don't want to hear the excuse of you going to the SEC. I don't want to hear it. You know why? Texas says hello. I legitimately don't want to hear it. You've had in the Big 12 in year 1, and then in your first year in the SEC, you've had losing seasons. Like look, we've gotten into this debate with Oklahoma fans before. They were in our chat all offseason when I told them they were going 6-6, and they laughed at me. Remember, they were mad at me.
Yeah, I remember that.
They were calling me on their shows. Oh, buddy, you're going 6-6. Joe, I mean, listen, I understand the John Mateer thing. I understand bringing in a new offensive coordinator. I don't know what you're going to do at receiver. I think that offensive line, I have no clue what you're going to do there. I think you'll still be good defensively. I understand Brent Venables is calling plays. But what's the standard at Oklahoma? What is the standard of what they should be? By the way, Oklahoma's been just as many playoffs as anybody else. They ain't got to national title games. They did get to 1. They've been on the brink of getting to national title games, almost knocking off Georgia, almost knocking off Alabama when the Kyler Murray year. What is the standard at Oklahoma? Oh, it's okay. It's year 1 in the SEC. No, you're making an excuse. Let's talk about Brent Venables here for me. Joe, he's 22-17. Like, if anybody what do we produce Oklahoma to be? That's the question I ask. Because if any other coach went to a blue blood program and through 3 years was 22-17, they would have serious questions that they have to answer, unless it was a complete and utter rebuild, which Oklahoma wasn't. Like, it really was not the overall rebuild that you needed. It wasn't. Lincoln left you talent there. I mean, if we're just Joey, he had 2 first-round defensive players. I mean, I don't, or 1. But he had a lot of defensive guys that were coming back. I mean, it's not like that they were falling off the rails here.
Okay, they weren't falling off the rails, but, and this is one of the things that you and I have argued about a lot, Lincoln didn't leave him much. A lot of those guys on that roster left.
Okay,
the guys that he recruited.
Well, then let's talk about a coach that was hired the same year as him that's in the SEC. You're going to hate it, but just stay with me. Brian Kelly had 37 scholarship players. What is the excuse there? If you're saying Oklahoma is a blue blood and LSU is a blue, like, what is the difference there then?
Okay, well, 1, Brian Kelly has gotten to 1 SEC championship game outside of that. I don't like you using Brian Kelly's
history.
Brian Kelly has obviously been more successful than Brent Venables, but I don't necessarily think that it is so shockingly he's performing so much better than him that he is an example to prove that Brent Venables is an F-up. I don't think that is the case. He has won more games, but at the same time, I'm not. That's why I don't want to compare the two.
All right, well, I'll throw another one at you. Let's have a conversation about Billy Napier then.
Billy Napier's been a mess until the end of this past season. If it wasn't for a string of a couple good games at the end of the year, he was getting fired.
But he did win them.
He did win them, and I. So we got to be honest with ourselves here. I don't think either you or I included Billy Napier on here, but Billy Napier with another hard schedule is a messy situation, a messy season away from also getting canned. Here's my thing with Brent Venables. I think that you bring up his record. His performance on the field is understandable. His first year in the SEC is unacceptable. He has a really good second season. His first season was a total shit show, but I thought that for what he had to rebuild and had to completely not start from scratch, but like turn things in his direction, it was a process. But you and I both said this when Oklahoma's first schedule was released for the SEC, that Texas was given a handout, that they were given an incredibly easy schedule. And Oklahoma, inversely, was given a gauntlet, an insurmountable, unsurvivable gauntlet.
Not a gauntlet to have a losing season, though.
Blake, they went 6-7 because they lost to Navy in the bowl game. I just think that a little bit like a little bit of wiggle room here is afforded to Brent Venables because this was his first year in the conference.
Well, it's all chips in on John Mateer, right? Like, it's all chips in on John Mateer. And I think he's so narcissistic, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, but he wants to call plays. And you know what? Good on you, because if you're going to go down with the ship, go down with you being the guy that you want to call defensive plays. All I'm saying here, Joe, is do you see it being that much better? Like, are they a 2-3 game win better team?
I think that.
Then who did they beat?
Wait, there were relatively fine margins in some of the games that they had, and I know they played like crap against South Carolina and they played like crap against Texas, but their offensive line was the biggest issue. Their offensive line, and they've recruited better at offensive line. But here, the main point though, why they're not going to fire Venables. I think this is a zero chance that they fire Venables. They just extended him, and you brought that up. The extension that they gave him was giving him a pass, was giving him a window of like, all right, we know that these next 2 years are going to be tough on you, but after that, you got to get this thing figured out. They wouldn't have given him a window in a period of time to improve this team if they did not have some sort of a belief in him.
No, what happened was he got to a double-digit win in year 2, and they gave him an extension, and they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have done that, because you're going into the SEC and you pigeonholed yourself. Let's call it what it is.
I think that was pretty intentional. I don't think that they thought that one good season was enough to extend him.
I was in Twitter Spaces when Twitter Spaces was a thing, okay? And I went in there with Oklahoma fans. Nobody did more Twitter Spaces than Oklahoma fans. No one. They literally thought that they would, number one, recruit better because they had the SEC patch on. They're not. They thought that they could walk into the SEC and win and push people around. They can't. I mean, Joe, again, when you talk about these blue blood programs, if I tell you any blue blood program has 2 losing seasons in 3 years, you're going to have questions about the head coach, regardless of the conference, regardless of what goes on. He is on the hot seat, and he better be on the hot seat, because there's nowhere else in the country where you can go in one of these type of programs and have 2 losing seasons, and you sit here and tell me that that's okay. If that sits well in Oklahoma, that
I don't think that, but I understand what you're saying, and I'm not trying to make it seem like his results were good enough to buy him time. They weren't. There is at least enough to go off of, though, seeing that they had a successful season in year 2, seeing the defensive performances that they've been able to produce. When they had a good offensive coordinator before Levy left for Mississippi State, what they were able to accomplish. I think that the bigger takeaway is that they're going to be better this year. I didn't think that, to be honest, and I wasn't vocal about this enough, I didn't think Jackson Arnold was going to be a very good quarterback. I really didn't.
You said as much. I mean, give yourself the credit.
I was unimpressed by the way that he played against Arizona in that bowl game. Yeah, and I don't think that his tools were reflective of what we typically get with 5-star kids. I think John Mateer is going to make this team a lot better. So that's also part of why I don't think that this happens.
It won't be better if that O-line can't block, though, man.
Let me ask you this. 8 wins, is that enough to buy him time in your eyes?
To buy him time, yes. But John Mateer's gone.
No, John Mateer, wait.
He'd be a junior. He's going into his junior season. I mean, I'm projecting that he's going into the draft.
He's not that kind of a kid. He's not going to be a first-round quarterback. So he's going to be, if he's only going to be a junior, then he's going to be there for a couple of years.
Okay, well, arguable sake, I'll concede that he's there.
Yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore, so he's got 2 more years minimum.
I mean,
or not minimum, but likely 2 more years.
Okay, fair. I'll concede that point. Joe, I don't know, man. I mean, listen. I look at Billy Napier getting a winning season in the SEC, and then you being Oklahoma and being in a better structured place of where they were. And it's not like Florida didn't have more of a gauntlet than you did, because they did. They did. And by the way, they lost their starting quarterback. So you can say, well, we had injuries and we had all this going on. They lost their starting quarterback. They recruited well enough to be able.
Wait, but we both agree that DJ Lagway gave them way more.
Okay, sure.
That was the only reason why they won all those games, was because Lagway gave them way more juice.
But they also said in those spaces that once they got that SEC patch on, that things would get better. It ain't getting better.
Yeah, that was arrogant. That's incredibly arrogant to assume these things.
Because I would always go in there and ask them, okay, well, who are you taking them from? Because if you got that patch on, then you got to take them from somebody. Who are you taking?
They have to take them from Texas. They need to start taking them from Texas.
And that's not going to happen.
It hasn't happened.
Joe, we told Texas was the #1 recruiting class in the country. You know, this time last year, they were in the 50s. The 50s. They will do whatever they want. So, again, you're not on the – look, I'm going to go Venables. He's 0-3 in bowl games. My